the safety record compared to construction is nowhere near as bad. It's something about the construction industry. Super interesting examples on the hardware side. So like robotics, I'd love to see Boston Robotics sending their little robotic dog out to construction sites.
They can roll the dice, they can take chances with these activities, but if something happens in that split second, you may have done it, you may have been lucky 100 times, but on the 101 try, if something goes wrong, it can be very bad.
The natural human instinct is to push against that.
Thanks, Jack, for having me on this podcast. Definitely would like to give a big thanks to be able to share my thoughts on your platform. My name is Leonard. I'm the founder and CEO of Ailytics, and basically we specialize in providing video analytics solutions to heavy industries such as construction to enable a safer and more productive workplace environment for everyone all around the globe. And we are based in Singapore at the moment.
Brilliant. So, Leonard, what first inspired you to get into health and safety?
I wouldn't say it was the first thing we thought about because it was one of the research problems that we were working on back in 2019 that was issued by HDB. So HDB is one of the largest residential developers in Singapore, and the problem statement was really about how we can leverage on video analytics to help improve safety situation in construction sites, uh, especially in a region such as Singapore. So I would say we were naturally focused on trying to solve the technical challenge first. I think we did not understand the magnitude of potentially safety concerns in this industry because we are not from this industry. I'm from aerospace. My co-founder used to be from the manufacturing background. We understand a bit, but maybe not as bad as construction. And so at the start we focused a lot on the tech, but as we started to do or dig deeper and do more and more and have those conversations with the contractors, with the customers, with people from the industry, I think we kind of understood what the impact of the tech would be, and what was the current state of the situation in this space. And then I think that was where we kind of knew that okay, we have an opportunity here to change certain things in this industry. It's not the easiest, but I think there's a huge potential gain for the betterment of everyone, every single worker, or people working in this industry if we can solve certain challenges in terms of rolling out the tech.
No, I absolutely agree. And I mean, let's speak about the current state of affairs. What would you say are the most common health and safety risks faced by our industry today?
Yep, I think generally there's depending on which country you see it, they call it the big three or the big four, right? So the most high risk works at site are either tend to be getting struck by a moving vehicle, falling from height when working at scaffolding, the edge of formworks and things like that, or getting accidentally hit or swung at by lifted or suspended loads. And lastly, it's around housekeeping issues and electrical hazards and getting electrocuted or falling down because of untidy or messy sites. Right. So these are some of the I would say top four causes of major accidents or fatalities in construction sites all around the world.
Someone who works in this space, I mean, I'd be really interested to hear maybe any examples that you have
So,
of um, specific situations that you've seen where there's been a health and safety failure on a construction site.
okay. I think we have to acknowledge that the construction site and the construction industry in general, it's still a bit, I would say, legacy in terms of uh, how things are being managed at the moment. It's not really the fault of I think the people in the space. It's just that managing a large construction project or any construction project for that matter is a very complex task. And what that means is that it's impossible to for anyone or any company to have safety officers at every single part of the site all the time. And what that means is that uh, people working at the site, which can be hundreds or thousands at any one point in time, uh, tend to, for whether it's by by intention or not, forgo some safety lapses, right? So, for example, things like maybe not wanting to hook on a safety harness because they just want to get something for a couple of seconds.
Mm.
Maybe they do not want to wear masks when welding because it's too hot. Uh, Maybe they do not want to hold the anchor line to lower down the load because using hands are much easier. But it's all these things that, yes, they can roll the dice, they can take chances with these activities, but if something happens in that split second, you may have done it, you may have been lucky 100 times, but on the 101 try, if something goes wrong, it can be very bad, right? And that, I think, is what we have seen. um, if no one really identifies this, or have anything to oversee or overlook these activities happening at site, then people tend to know that they may be able to get away with it, or maybe they are very fatigued. They do not know that they are in the wrong. Um, then all this can happen at any point in time. So that's kind of what we are trying to do to aid in some of this monitoring of unsafe acts.
Yeah, I mean, some of the examples that you've just given there, they're understandable. They're
Mm,
not. They're not. They're not. We can't condone them,
mm,
but they're understandable. If we're working in a hot climate and you have to wear a hot mask for a matter of minutes, it's uncomfortable. So the natural human instinct is to push against
mm,
that. So it's understandable. But I guess thinking about other sectors where traditionally there's an equal amount of risk. So you mentioned your background is in aerospace, and you could look at other sectors like manufacturing. So other physical sort of heavy industry sectors.
mm,
The safety record compared to construction is nowhere near as bad. It's
mm,
something about the construction industry where we do see considerably poor health and safety records.
mm.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's a few reasons for this. First one, I think it boils down to the environment that they're in. So if we look at, let's say, oil and gas, manufacturing, or even aerospace for that matter, it tends to be relatively confined. As in every area, there tends to be people. It's slightly easier to monitor those areas versus a vast like construction site where there are many blind spots and tons of different subcontractors at any one point in time. Um, Second, I think it's also kind of the rules of engagement and culture. So if we look at, let's say, for example, oil and gas, it's probably one of the highest and most strictest rules out there in terms of following procedures, protocols, and all these, right? And when those things are heavily enforced and they are in place and they are repeated over and over again, and people are warned or even sometimes penalized not to do something, um, it becomes ingrained into the operational culture that you don't necessarily get in a construction site again, because there are many, many different companies and subcontractors at play versus these other industries. And that is tends to be a bit harder to control, because subcontractors, at the end of the day, they are there to do a task. They can only get claim, what they have done based on progress and work done. And if they delay or there's something issue, you will delay a snowball to all their other projects and other stuff that they're working on. And there's a misalignment in terms of focusing on safety, getting my money in so that I can go on to the next project and do something as well. So I would say that would be kind of the second reason in terms of the culture and the mindset. And the first one would be then the area and monitoring and focus and narrow environment versus construction versus all the others.
The culture of health and safety in oil and gas is has really come a long way
Mm,
over the last sort of decade or so, and the culture of proactive risk management within oil and gas is definitely quite advanced. Yeah. I want to talk about a little bit about best practices. So, what would you say is currently considered best practices for ensuring health and safety on construction sites?
So I would say that some of the best practices are really about starting at the top, right? Everyone follows by example, and we lead by example. So if the director or the supervisor is the one um, taking out telling people to take shortcuts because of time or cost pressure to the workers, they, they really don't have much of a choice. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in the way of how things are structured. So having that, uh, starting from the top, safety culture and mindset in every single company, main contractor, general contractor, subcontractor, everything needs to be there. Second thing is really about fatigue management. We, of course, I think in reality we understand that companies can be short-staffed because of worker retention, cost of labor, cost of materials has gone up because of COVID. um, Companies are getting pressed, right, to even survive, especially subcontractors. Um, the way this industry works when it comes to payment sometimes can are not the best as well. Like if the general contractor holds or delays payment to the subcontractor and they are forced to take shortcuts or they are forced to do certain things that are not ideal, it just builds a lot of pressure down the chain to kind of increase the potential risk, increase the potential workload on workers, to potentially have them a lot more fatigue. When they're a lot more fatigued, they're probably not thinking straight. They probably just want to take shortcuts and get things done. Right? That's the second part. Fatigue management, especially in Singapore, especially because of the hot weather as well. So taking breaks every certain hours. I think the government has recently issued some guidelines on based on certain level of temperature to have certain level of breaks. Right? All these are very good best practices. The last one I would say it's about how to have everyone in terms of treating everyone the same. So no double standards when it comes to rewarding, penalizing, or incentivizing any particular worker or subcontractor. If we have a culture of always rewarding the one who is quick and does the job well at all costs, again that may bring out unsatisfactory results in terms of how people would behave, how people will react to certain situations. Um, and so I would say it kind of all boils down to these three, and that's where I see the biggest gaps are at the moment in terms of what's happening at site. Because I mean, I've been to so many construction sites and all this issues. So out of 10 times I'm in a site office, probably 3 or 4 times I'm hearing some disputes about payment. I when we walk the ground, uh, there are some workers that you know I wouldn't say they had the best sleep, but they're short staffed. Things need to go on, and it's not ideal. So what does that mean in terms of downstream implications, right? Can the delay from the subcontractor to the general contractor to the client and all this can it be mitigated in some other way, or is the only way by pouring manpower? Most of the time it may not be the case. And also in terms of starting at the top with the directors, I think been a lot of new recent rules and regulations. I wouldn't say targeting, but holding senior level or senior management accountable for what their supervisors and workers are doing at the site, even though they may not be the ones directly managing the day-to-day project management or operations of their guys in the site. But if anything were to happen, uh, they could the senior management of the company could be fined, could be jailed, and I think then in a way that helps them to ensure that the downstream effects of their employees to not take shortcuts, and they try to put safety first as a priority.
Yeah. And your mention of sort of visiting site offices. I mean, it's all very well and good us thinking about, okay, we need to have a health and safety driven culture. We need to lead from the top. But when you visit site offices, what tends to be the sort of general culture and perspective around health and safety? Is there do people? Is it at the front of people's minds when you walk sites?
I think generally everyone that we work with wouldn't say that safety is not important, but in reality, um, when there are costs or timeline or schedule impacts, it's unfortunately one of the first things that gets deprioritized most of the time. Um, the other thing is that I think for safety, in terms of if we think about like safety measures in general, the ratio of safety officers to the ratio of the site is not something that I would say scales correctly, and it's I would say it's also impossible you can't add this amount of safety officers just to handle this large amount of site. I wouldn't say that it's feasible as well. That's why the tech enablement part has to kind of
Yeah.
come in. Um, but
And
in
I mean, the
yeah,
tech point is
mm,
is a really good one
mm,
because we need to evolve in our approach to capturing information around health and safety risks in order to stay ahead of it.
mm,
And I know that some of the really big trends at the minute are actually around not just quantifying health and safety risks, but actually almost predicting incidents based on historic trends. I mean, I'm really interested for your opinion on the role of technology within health and safety. I mean, where do you see the biggest opportunities for evolution in the way that we think about health and safety through the use of technology?
mm. I think there are quite a number of health and safety tech in the construction space. Be it monitoring the wellness through wearables, monitoring site safety hazards through cameras like video analytics, like what we do. You know, switching up certain tasks for robots, so it reduces the high risk activities. I think there are quite a number of things. However, with that being said, there are some challenges for adoption as well, in the sense of, especially for this particular industry, right? They, the construction industry is one of probably the more conservative industries out there, so we cannot just slap some technology onto them and expect them to get it from day one, right? It's not the playing field for this industry and others is not exactly the same yet. So the tech should improve their day-to-day work and operations, not add more work, which actually some tech tend to do, even though they may be with the best intentions. And sometimes you need to kind of hold their hand to explain and to walk them through how to use it, how to best maximize the value of your product into day-to-day operations, and then they will kind of get it. They won't they may not get it immediately from one or two training sessions until they experience it and use it for a while. You guide them on best practices from what you have done with other contractors, and then in the end, that kind of drives the best adoption and what we have seen the best uptake for tech solutions in this space, especially.
Yeah. I mean, where do you think? What do you think the sort of the next wave of health and safety technology looks like?
I would say the next wave, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to robotics in construction, right? Because safety tech in general, yes, we can have as much as possible, whether it's non-tech or tech, to protect the workers and to do the job safer and be more efficient. But if you really want to eliminate the risks as much as possible, then we have to look at robotics. And uh, in construction today, there are quite a number of robotics, but they are all singular task robotics. Like there's a robotics to even the cement. There's a robot to drill, drill stuff into the holes, or for painting. But they are very costly, and they are singular tasks. So they may be they're targeting the high value tasks, which is great, and that's good. But my wish is that we can have more of a human replica like robot that can do multiple trades rather than I have 20 robots to do 20 things. Um, that is kind of my hope on where I see the future trend. I think it will take a while to get there. Maybe Elon Musk will get there, I don't know, or someone else, or maybe Boston Dynamics. Um,
Yeah.
that's one. The second one is actually um, the mapping of the construction site for progress or quality, safety inspections. Now it's either manual or there's some robots. But some of these robots, again, they have issues climbing the stairs. They're not standard stairs, they're aluminum stairs, and all these, they're a bit more wonky, right? Um, my wish is then if we can have a relatively small drone that can autonomously and self-navigate through the construction site, go back to a dock, charge itself, do the same thing again. It can continuously map out every single part as much as possible of the site, and then we can apply AI or other types of scanning technologies onto it to monitor the actual site conditions, monitor the progress, productivity, or a bunch of things, right? With a small drone, of course, there are a lot of things that needs to be solved with the connectivity and how it's going to navigate and obstacle avoidance, but it removes the difficulty of navigating the terrain, because the terrain in a construction site, you can suddenly be on the muddy ground to concrete to aluminium stairs, and maybe to eventually some puddle of water or something. So uh, those are I'll do my where I see tech kind of advancing.
The software side is headed. I
Mm.
mean, with artificial intelligence and the amount of the connectivity and the amount of artificial intelligence tapping into some of the sheer amounts of data that we now have at our fingertips. What are you excited about on that side?
I think there are a couple of major applications that are happening now in construction. They're being driven by some startups like us and some big large corporations as well. The first one is actually document management. So it's a nightmare to search for documents now. It's kind of all over the place, maybe in different formats, still in Excel, Word document, a bunch of things. And linking those back to a particular plan, or in the construction site, we have something called a BIM model. Um, Artificial intelligence can help to organize that a bit better and to search for this information a bit better. The second thing is on planning and optimization. So a lot of the things around um, where to park certain materials, where to park the vehicles, which works to how do I rearrange my works if something is delayed, optimizing of planning or layout. The third one is basically what we do is basically leveraging on cameras, right? Inexpensive cameras that are often already deployed on site. These cameras tend to look at high risk work areas, whether it's the perimeter, whether it's the construction floor, whether it's the entrance, whether they're doing piling or excavation works. This kind of boils back to what we discussed earlier on. It's an impossible task for the safety team to have manpower to monitor everywhere at all times, right? So we can leverage on AI, and that's what we have been doing now. We tap into these cameras on site. We monitor high risk scenarios. Not only that, we monitor security aspects as well. We send these alerts in real time to the site team, sometimes to the exact worker or walkie-talkie or siren as well in certain contexts. But all of this is, at the end of the day, it's to bring insights and evidence of what's happening at site to the forefront of the people managing the site, right? How they take this information and act on it is there's a few ways. They either use it for onboarding, for retraining. They use it in their daily safety meetings to kind of show everyone at the site what they have found to deter the behavior. And in worst case scenarios, they may issue fines, especially for repeated offenders that after multiple warnings. But ultimately, all these insights are to drive the behavioral kind of improvement or aspect of the site to kind of hopefully one day reach the oil and gas right level, and this would really be the one of the I foresee this being one of the main drivers, and then plus the management approach and the culture coming in to kind of achieve that one day.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a fascinating conversation around something that is so important, which is helping our colleagues go home safe at the end of the day. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jake. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.